Good evening and welcome, traders. Let's get into today's action. It is Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. Big update in the markets following the no move from the Fed yesterday and the, hey, we're going to wait and see, which the market took to be no more rate hikes. We're all done and we'll be cutting rates somehow. At least that's the vibe that you get from watching what's going on in the market, even though none of that was actually said. But the markets will read into it what they want, and what they want right now is to go up solidly. So let's take a look at what happened. So we were up today almost 80 points on SPX. So up for the week so far, we are up over a almost 3 sigma move over the expected move this week. So if you look at the weekly chart, we have covered the entire bottom to top of this channel in 1 week. So a massive up week back to the top of the channel almost on the weekly here on SPY. So even though the PSAR trend is still down, MACD had been falling along with RSI, but with this week's huge up week so far, we've moved up. So you've gone from really a low of around 410 all the way up to 430. So a 200-point move in SPX this week. So huge move. And if we look at the daily chart, just gap, big gap today. So moving higher, bullish PSAR reversal today, which can be significant. MACD has been moving higher. RSI is moving higher and above the 50 line. Very strong, nothing overbought. So you would think that this thing could continue to move for a bit. So we're nowhere near the 2 or 3 ATR levels or the Bollinger Bands. We're just at the top of this channel, but we've broken the 21 and close right at the 50 EMAs. You could get some more rally out of this thing. I would have thought we'd stayed in the channel a bit, and I expected a bounce here, but I did not expect to regain this entire channel in 4 sessions, which we did. All good. So if you've got it played correctly, we're in good shape. We've had a whale of a week this week, so we'll get into our trades, but overall looks pretty good here on SPY, up almost 2% on the session. Qs, again, the same as SPY, as always, up about 2% on the session today as well. Now, we're not at the top of the range yet. There's still a little bit a ways to go, but, gap, above the 21, above the 50 exponential, MACD, RSI moving higher on the daily, solid bounce here. And that going in an uptrend because we still have, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So until we break this previous high that we just had, up around 374-ish and change, it's still a downtrend. However, a good bounce here to begin with. And the big winner today is the small caps on the Russell. Russell having a huge day. Big bounce. We had talked about this bounce and this oversold level here a couple of days ago. MACD's been moving higher, RSI moving higher, breaking the 50. Giant gap up session today and up almost 2.7, almost 3% gaining day on the IWM. So on the small caps here. We remain in the downtrend. There's nothing that's changed this really for us, but we'll keep an eye. In fact, we could probably redraw this into more of a descending-ish wedge type of a pattern more than anything. It's a channel, but a wedge, but we're right at the top of that too. There's a gap up here to be filled. I'm not getting too giddy about getting up here right now, but we'll see what happens. But strong up there as well. We moved up significantly on the percent of companies above their 50-day moving average. We've been floating down here around 15, 16%. And then in 2 days, we've run up to almost 40% of the companies. So that's a big move from really an oversold type of a level now to, not half, but 40% of the companies are now back above their 50-day moving average. It's a pretty good recovery and a a good move overall in the markets. The put call index has continued to drop. Really, the best way to look at this one is jumping over on the charts here. Just looking at the put call, let's put on our 10-day moving average. And we broke the 10-day moving average to the downside here the other day. I'm going to take this off. And you can see that as we continue to break through our uptrending line, start to move south. If this thing gets rolling to the downside, and let's put a trend line on it. This is just moving south. Let's see if this continues. But we got a trend line moving to the downside. If this starts getting some momentum to the downside here, that's going to give the markets more of a move to move up, just like we did way back in here. Every time we break down through the dollar price level and head lower, the market has rebounded. Then we reverse, get back higher, market falls. So as we get up here, the market's fallen, and now you're starting to see it rolling over. So if the put call level continues to drop, we'll keep an eye on the 10-day moving average, the easiest way to gauge what we're doing here as opposed to looking at the actual candles here. But pretty good news. And you see the market really responding to this downtrend here by trying to reverse itself and get moving higher. All right, so there's where we are on the put call ratio. VIX dropped again today, back down to 15 and change. VIX has gone from 22 to 15 in just under 2 weeks. Just massive volatility coming out of the markets. Fantastic for us. Not great for putting on new trades, but great for existing trades as volatility comes out of the market. Taking a look at the US dollar today, it dropped a little bit more. So a down day on the US dollar. So if you're starting to get the dollar rolling over and you've seen RSI heading lower on the weekly and the daily, so you're seeing that rollover breaking sideways out of the pattern. If the US dollar weakens, that's also going to be very good for the stock market. We'll take a quick look at the 10-year notes. Big gap down day today. The 10-year dropped all the way to 46.69. So it's a pretty hefty drop from 5. So from a 5% rate to a 4.7 rate, pretty good drop here. So we're seeing a nice drop in rates, which of course is going to kick TLT off, and TLT making its move higher. So TLT really starting to show that, all right, rates may have bottomed. This might be a good time. Taking a look at this, MACD, RSI moving higher. I've been bearish on this thing all the way down. I think it's time now that you got a PSAR reversal today, coming off of this RSI and MACD rising, and the weekly also reversing here. I think it's time to look at potentially getting long at TLT. I'd probably want some sort of a pullback and then get long. You got a big gap up session today, but other than that, we'll keep selling naked puts on it, which is really the best thing for us. We've been selling naked puts on ZB bond futures, and those have been just paying off. Fantastic for us as we wait for this thing to bottom. So as bearish as I've been on TLT, looks like it might be time to start to reverse that and get longer TLT. Is it going up to 120 or something tomorrow? No, so I'm not getting too excited. Interest rates are dropping, TLT bottoming. Maybe the bottom's in, don't know, but you're starting to get some really good technical moves on TLT. If we're looking at 6A, the Aussie dollar, big gap up session today with the dollar dropping, almost 0.7% on the session. You got a 0.9% move here on the Aussie dollar, so it's reversing higher daily and weekly. You got the British pound doing the exact same thing, reversing higher daily and weekly. You got the Canadian dollar, big reversal day today, up over a 1% move on the Canadian dollar. It's a big currency move that you got going on right there, starting to improve and look better there. 6A also up on the session, continuing to just move sideways and consolidate sideways, which is totally fine. Good basing action here. We'll see how this thing continues to hold up, but overall pretty good. If we look at bonds, we already covered this with TLT. Big up days. We've been selling naked puts on bonds, so we're ready to get long, potentially maybe some other trades that are a little bit more bullish in nature. But I don't see any reason at these lows. We're still not like way off the lows. We've gone from 106 to 112. I was up 2% today. That's great. We're up about 6% overall. However, 6% in 2 weeks or so, 3% a week, two pretty good moves. But you're not far off the lows. I mean, 6% off the lows is a good spot, I think, to keep selling naked puts. On ZB, you could also be doing ZN, which is the 10-year as well. So both performing well. Oil finally holding and up today and moving a little higher. Oil, MACD, and RSI have been falling on the weekly, so you've been in a weekly downtrend. However, getting a nice reversal day to day. We'll see if that holds, or is that just a one-day little bounce and we'll flip over. Might have something to do with the dollar a bit as well. But I do like oil in this 78 to 80 range. And we have naked puts on here. Those are doing well overall. Really good day for our naked puts. MACD of one-day improvement, but we need to see more. Gold moved up just a fraction today. Not a big move, just a small little move on gold. Weekly is moving higher, but the daily has been weakening for about a week or so now on both the MACD and the RSI. We're just kind of hanging sideways, giving back a little bit. I think this thing is getting ready for potentially another run. But if the market gets cooking, you may see money coming out of this back into the market. So it's a good and a bad at the same time. OVX, the oil volatility, we talk about this every single night. It's been on a good up move on the weekly, but it's just been tipping over lately on the daily. So volatility in oil now down to 38 from almost 48. So that's a 25% drop in oil volatility this week. So very big drop in volatility. Great for our trades as well that we have on, that volatility is coming out. And if we look at the GVZ, which is the gold volatility, also dropping. It's gone from 19 all the way to 14 and change. MACD, RSI heading lower. Volatility in gold also coming out, which has really paid off for us in our trades this week. Let's take a look at the sectors on the session. Everything is green, so not a red sector to be found, and almost no sectors moving less than 1%. I mean, XBI was your worst performer, and that was up 0.98%, so really a 1% gain on biotech. Biggest winner, again, semiconductors, just having a fantastic last 3 days. Big bounces off lows of 14, moving up to 17. Really good looking move on semis as you're heading towards the top of this descending wedge that you have here. We'll see how this plays out. Okay, but overall, good movement. It's really pushing tech stocks here with the semis. KRE also as well. This broke out today. Huge gap, giant day on regional banks. This really helping push the market. This kept the market elevated a good chunk of the day as this thing gapped up and just ran all the way to the final bell today. Big move, regional banks, 6% move on the regional banks, looking very, very, very strong. If we look at the RSI as well here, let's fix this 50%, and let's get this thing situated the way we like it, and get a good sense of breaking through that 50% range in here, or the 50 range on the RSI. Strong up day, big move, back over the 21, back over the 50 EMAs. Bollinger Bands and everything starting to open up a bit here. This thing could be interesting to see if we get a continued ride. The weekly, terrible looking, but it's trying to put in some kind of a base. But the daily, getting a good breakout. Can we get some higher highs? Do we see banks starting to improve? Other big sectors today, real estate up 3.1%. XRT The retailers up 3%. XLE, energy up 3%. All of those outperforming tech stocks. So XLY, your best performing tech stock in here, big gap up day, 2.6%. Oil's up, financials up 2.3%. Industrials up 2% on industrials as well. But look way down here. XLK, your tech stocks, not that it was a bad day, but they only went up about 1.69, 1.7%. Certainly not the strongest sector on the day by far. In fact, XLK, one of the weakest sectors on the entire day. We were really led by XLY. That was the big one, which is your Amazon and your Tesla. XLK, not so much, and XLC is your Meta and your Googles, bringing up the rear because Meta, one of the only stocks down today. Let's take a look at some of the main culprits that we run into here. So Apple ran up on the session 2% on the day, heading into earnings after the bell, and Apple earnings after the bell, not fantastic. So it didn't have a lot of the earnings, I think, was a beat, and we'll get that number for you real quick here. But earnings beat on Apple, but fourth consecutive quarterly sales decline. So sales in Apple, 4 quarters in a row of missing sales estimates. Look what happened the last time on earnings. Okay, we gapped down, pretty significant the next morning. So that gap has still never been filled on Apple here. We'll keep it alive. But this gap down from the last earnings never been filled. We came close, but has still never been filled. Now we're back to the top of this descending triangle range, and guess where we're probably going to be tomorrow. Apple looks like it's dropping about $6 in the after hours session, so down about 4% in the after hours trading here. So big gap up day, and it's going to give all of that back and more, opening around 171 as the indication for tomorrow, which is around the 200-day moving average. Bullish PSR reversal, that's a good sign. MACD and RSI moving higher, all good signs. You're going to get it. If you didn't get in today and you wanted to, you're going to get another shot at Apple tomorrow when it drops. All right, so there's your Apple earnings, which were not too hot. Microsoft having just a fair day today, up 6%. Just a nice, solid uptrend. No gapping, nothing major here. I mean, a little bit of a gap in here, but for the most part, it's just been a solid uptrender all week this week. Amazon also been a strong up mover, only up 0.78%, like not quite 1%, but you have gapped up all but one day this week has been a gap up on Amazon. Meta, so Meta here gapped up, ran up, and then finished at the lows of the session. So Meta finished on a weak note here, dropping a bit on the session. Still looks decent. MACD and RSI rising on the daily, but unable to break up this upper range. We'll keep an eye on it. Google continues to just move back up. So if you, like I said, the 3-day rule, gap down on earnings, give it 2 more days, and then you start to consider what you want to do. If you sold puts here, and we talked about doing that, if you sold puts, you've made some money this week on Google. NVIDIA, almost a 3% update today, moving up 11, almost 12 points. So ahead of earnings, which are coming out in a couple of weeks, NVIDIA coming back up. And while everyone was waiting here for this head and shoulders neckline break, it did not happen. We've reversed higher, so we might just take that off. And then Tesla, big move today, jumping back above this previous support/resistance level here, gapped to it and ran on the session. So Tesla, strong day. MACD, RSI looking very, very solid on the daily chart. We could have some more upside to go on Tesla. However, the weekly still down and may keep it under control a bit. And then the last of the Magnificent Seven is your Netflix, which I rarely cover here. But Netflix breaking above the descending channel here. So we're breaking out to the upside We broke to the downside and reversed and gapped up on earnings. You got a gigantic gap here that is going to have to be watched for quite some time. But gap and go, and up it went, came back down, retested the gap, and then off it shot this week. So big week on Netflix. So if you've got the FANG stocks in your portfolio, or the Magnificent Seven, as everybody calls them, you're having a pretty doggone good week. Apple won't be doing so good tomorrow, but you're having a good week overall. So lots of positives out there, man. We go from negatives to positives in just a flick of an eye. All it takes is the Fed maybe can talk about some easing, or people to interpret that suits the market, good earnings. I think, we'll see what happens as we move forward, but that's all good stuff for the market. So a rally could continue. Again, back to SPY, just real quick here. I think a rally can continue. I think we could go up, at least another 2, 3, 4%. I would not be surprised if we come back, do a little retest, and then move higher again as we move sideways. But you got to be careful of this previous resistance level, previous high. If we don't break that, we're still in a downtrend. But we talked about a bounce coming. I used the bounce today to get hedges on. That we could keep moving higher. It's all good. But when we bounce in a channel like this, I'd like to put my hedges on near the top of the channel. If it breaks it and goes higher, it's all good. I'm just playing the percentages and hedging my portfolio slightly. I don't have many hedges on. I don't really think hedges are a big deal for me. I do not have black swan hedges on. I only hedge trades that need to be hedged. 112 trades, in my opinion, do not need to be hedged. So what am I hedging? I am hedging my strangles. I'm hedging my naked put plays. That's pretty much it. I'll maybe hedge some standard 112s, but not the long-term 112s. I'm hedging just enough to cover being stopped out on all of my strangles and all of my spec trades, and maybe some of the standard 112s. That's all I'm hedging. I'm not hedging the long-term 112s, so I don't need to spend a ton to hedge, but I'll spend a chunk of my portfolio to do so, and you'll see exactly how I did that as we jump into the trading session. So let's see where we finished today. Delta on this move up the last couple of days, it's dropped from 923 all the way to 99. I'm almost dead Delta neutral, which is perfect. I love it. If we get a little negative here, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't mind being Delta negative or slightly Delta negative. Here overall, the way my portfolio is constructed, it doesn't really matter, positive or negative on Delta, as long as it's within that 0.2% range. Theta came off a little bit more today. Now we're back down to 0.39. 0.4 is my minimum Theta goal. That's where I like to be. Volatility has been dropping. So you can see that our Theta has been dropping, but we also closed several trades. So as we start to close some trades and let some things come off, naturally Theta is going to drop. However, it's still a very strong Theta, 0.4%. Netlick did pop up a little bit more today. So we have another new all-time high today in the account, up a little over $1,500 on the session. And then we saw BP usage also continue to come down. Span margin easing off a bit, closed some trades. We had more winners come off today. We've had several Strangle winners closing this week. But BP usage dropping 181, which is 55.6%. So almost right exactly at my 50% BP use trade. If we start to drop any further than that, I'll be adding more trades. Right now, I'm just kind of letting things come off and putting back on, but I'm not going over what we're doing. Now, we did realize another $660 on the day. It would have been more, but we took losses on 2 hedges. And let's talk about those. But overall, for the month so far, we are up $8,991 in 2 days, 2.8%. If the month would end right now, we'd have our realized gains for the month almost completely booked. We're not quite there. We are up 1.7% on our net lick for the month. But again, $325,000 is where we are. We have accumulated $83,000 in P&L so far this year. So we've made $83,000. We started $250,000. Not too shabby. We'll keep making some money. on that, but overall up pretty nicely on the year itself. All right, let's look at the trades from today, and there were a handful. So let's look at everything kind of in this bluish range that we have here. First things were losers. We'll talk about those. We had a hedge trade on, so I had a PDS, a put debit spread. Probably should have named it PDS as part of put spread, but it was a put debit spread. This is one of our 60 DTE hedges that we keep on, built to protect the portfolio from a 10 to 12% decline in case I would get stopped out of all of my positions. If I get stopped out from my positions, then I'm covered by that put spread. I did put a new one on end of day, but we took a $900 loss as per our plan on this particular trade. $900 loss. It lasted 22 days. Okay, so I had a $900 cost, okay, on a $320,000 account. Okay, overall, I spent 0.3 of a percentage point. Okay, one, not even a third. Okay, 0.3, almost a quarter of a percentage point is all I spent to insure my portfolio for 22 days during a downtrend. I think I would take that any day of the week, and we've got another one on. We also took a loss on this put. This was a long put that we bought. We did it for two reasons. Not really as much of a hedge. We bought it as a BP relief tool. We spent $140 on it. It came off today or expired today, but it did its job. It kept us in great shape on our buying power. It's going to come off today, but we don't need to do anything on that anymore. I'll spend $140 on that. So 2 losses here, about $1,000 worth of losses. But then we get into some wins. Today, unbelievably, the only 0 DTE trades I did were call credit spreads. When you've got to be thinking, Tom, this is bananas. The market only went up today, almost the entire day, from the gap up and ran all day long, and you're doing credit spreads. Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason I did that is with the methodology I use for 0 DTE, one of the things that I really put a lot of stock in is the 3 ATR and the 2 ATR movement, number one. We gapped up on the 15-minute. We gapped up to almost, I don't know, like a 5 ATR. Okay, we were so extended on the initial gap up, I couldn't help but put on a call credit spread, figuring that we could still drift higher, but that we weren't going to sustain that kind of a distance above the 3 ATR. But we gapped up this morning. I'll give you a little bit of an idea of what it looked like when we look at the day trading setups that I have here. So if I'm looking at this day trading setup here, you gapped up. This white line is the 3 ATR. This red line is the 2 ATR. And look at the size of that gap. And we gapped and kept going. So it was perfect opportunity, in my opinion, right here at about 9:30 or so, when looking at the 3-minute chart. Okay, we put on a call credit spread. We were able to take that one off for a 50% winner. Then on the next move higher here, which is, I think, somewhere around, 10:30-ish. Okay, at 10:45, we had risen even further. Even though the 3 ATR is rising. So when the 3 ATR is rising, it doesn't work as well as when it's flat. When the ATR is more flat than 45-degree angle, it works a lot better. If it's a 45-degree angle, you're just going to ride that up. And you can see we rode the 2 and 3 standard ATRs all the way up all day long. But we put another trade on here around 10:45 for another another call credit spread. And we just drifted sideways until about 12:30. So about 2 hours of sideways action. That thing came off on a dip as well. And then we put one more on as we moved higher. Now, this particular one that we put on later in the session, this got a little bit more interesting as this market just kept moving higher and higher and higher on the day. So as it moved higher on the session, we never got close to a 2x stop. We did get well over a 1x. probably a 1.5x stop area or 1x area, but we did not stop out on it, which is what we're looking for. So we stuck to our metrics on it. We did not get stopped out, but I kept an eye on that thing. You can bet all day long as we move. And let me figure out exactly what time here we put that trade on. And we took it off very close to the end of the day, almost like 3:30 or so in the afternoon. So we put that trade on pretty late. Let me see what the activity looked like. We put that trade on at about 10:30 today. So 10:30 today, which was, we got to go back. So we actually did put this one on somewhat early. Around 10:30, right around here, right when the market was at 4,300. And 4,300, pretty strong open interest level and a pretty strong overall level. I thought that maybe we would hold 4,300 GEX level and so forth here. So we sold, and I sold the 43.20, 43.50. So I gave myself some room to the upside, but we moved sideways. We had some gains, we had some flat, and then we just started to march higher, and then we marched higher. And this thing, every single dip was bought, dip was bought, dip was bought, dip was bought. And then right in here, we closed at exactly 335. So if we look right in here on this move lower, right in here, this is where we closed. So we were able to close this one as the decay had happened pretty well. We got a dip. We were able to close this one out for a nice gainer. And then the market after that did rally a little bit more into the close, but overall we did pretty well. So we closed 3 of these today. So 3 call credit spreads, 200, a small one for 100, and a little larger one for 300. So $600 on there helps pay for these hedges. And then we also got closed on another strangle that came off today. So this is the 4th strangle so far this month. If I'm looking at my my overall strangles, I haven't moved anything in there, but this would actually be the 4th strangle now. We've made $4,700 in 2 days as 4 strangles have come off. I'm only usually shooting for 3 strangles a month right now to come off, making myself about, I don't know, $3,700 a month. And so 4 strangles have already come off, and we could have some more, but we're positioned very, very, very well. So I'm excited where we are. So good day today, small gain. Tomorrow we will have at least a $500 gain, unless something else, negatively happens, because we have a 112 in the Aussie dollar coming off tomorrow. It will fully expire at a 100% winner, $500 even on that. So we'll let that thing expire worthless tomorrow. So we know we have at least another $500 in realized gains tomorrow, and I don't have to do anything. Don't even have to get out of bed to have that realized gain rocking for us. So good stuff. We made some moves today. If we look at the small portfolio that we run, it slipped $100 today. However, we made $381 in realized gains on the session. All of our Greeks are perfectly in line. We're up almost 3% on monthly P&L already, and it's only 2 days in, so our gains are almost there for the week. And what did we do? We actually closed a put debit spread that was part of one of our trades. So we actually closed the put debit spread that we had already rolled down, and then we closed the naked puts on this long-term 112 as well. So we've rolled this thing once and made money. Then we closed it today and made even more money, another $16 in credit. And then we were able to buy back for $1.10. I do the 220 here because I'm doubling it because I have twice as many shares on it. But we were able to get out of that trade in good shape. So good overall move for our small account. Again, $381 plus the 60. We're up $441, almost 3% on the month. Got the games booked. So we're in good shape, loving where the market is, taking full advantage of it. We're at new all-time highs, 325, 669. We'll look to keep it going. We've got some realized gains coming off tomorrow. Love where we are. And we've got some new strangles that we put on today. Another new strangle replacing stuff that was taken off. In fact, our gold strangle that we put on yesterday is up 13, almost 14% in one day already, as this volatility. Volatility is a magical thing. So volatility, magical. When you are a premium seller, sell it high, take it off in low. Don't be restricted to only selling in high, but when you have the chance to do it, boy, it really makes a difference, and you can see accelerating those gains forward pretty substantially. So good stuff overall. All right, if you like this video, please go ahead and click that like button. I know it's long. If you are not a subscriber, subscribe, tell your friends. Let's get some people on here. Let's help as many people as we can start to make some money. I'm getting great feedback from not only members in the Discord that we run, having some gigantic gains, okay, but we're also getting some of the folks on YouTube that have, even though you don't know the trades I'm in, you're seeing what I'm doing and you're able to try to replicate it the best you can. I think you're missing some of the finer points that make you some more money. You can do that in the Discord, but overall, just understanding strategy, having a trade plan, knowing what to do, I think is making some of you guys some money out there. And that's our goal, is to share as much as we can, get you guys moving. All right. Have a safe and healthy rest of your day. And we'll see you guys tomorrow in the market for the final day of the week. Take care, everybody.